You are now listening to the Going North podcast, where you'll receive tips and technique to advance yourself. I'm your host, Dom Brightman, and every week we're going to be hearing from an author who's going to share their expertise to help you charge forward in life. On a quick side note, be sure to check out Going North the book. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Going North podcast, we bring you some extraordinary humans doing some extraordinary things, like putting pen to paper and publishing it in a book format for folks to read. Today is no different, because today we have another author in his house, And if you think of someone who may be a mentor, a leader, a spoken word artist, heck, maybe even future champion in MMA. We got it all today, and today's guest right here, Mr. DF himself, DeWayne Foote. How are you today, sir?
Oh, I'm great. Everything's going well today.
Oh, yeah, it's going extra well with some extra water, man. That's right. Yes, and today with the water, it's flowing, baby. So how you feeling?
Everything's going well. I'm in New York. I'm living and breathing. I feel pretty good. So I'm doing well. Doing well.
There you go, man. Well, as with all introductions, are not allowed to be 30 months long, so mine filling in some gaps where I missed some things in the introduction. Tell us a bit about who is DeWayne Foote.
Well, I'm originally a native Washingtonian. A statement that I love saying because there's not that many of us Washingtonians left. A plumber by trade, a career that I just didn't pick just for the heck of it. I picked it because there's something about plumbing that I just love. Who loves plumbing? Yeah, I do. I'm also a guy who found a secondary passion, and I had no idea that you could have two passions. Again, plumbing is my first passion. My second passion is writing. So once I found the spoken word or the writing, it opened up a bunch of new doors for me, and it helped me really express who I am as an individual. So that in a nutshell is DeWayne Foote.
Oh, yeah, that's right, a plumber, baby. That's what I'm talking about. So now the gates are open. So, all right, now I know who to call when I don't want to go to the regular companies. I can practice some group economics here now. I got myself a plumbing in the Rolodex here.
the dirtier the better.
Oh, that can go south in so many ways. Let me stop.
Indeed. Look, I always think I heard them all. So, anything you have to say, just let it go. I'm here.
Yeah, man. And the beautiful thing about it is that that's kind of an interesting mix in a way. It's like trade by day, you're a plumber, then by night, spoken word artist. And I believe you became a plumber because it was introduced to you by your uncle, right?
Absolutely. I don't know, and he took us out there. We did some of the dirtier jobs, shoveling, jackhammering. He made us work for a little bit of money, and regardless of how hard I worked, what I enjoyed most was once the job was finished, he always asked us, and when I say us, I mean me and a couple of my cousins. He would always ask us how much, gave us the choice. How much do you want to get paid for the job? And I'm telling you, the first time I asked him for $100, not thinking I was going to get it, but I just threw it out there. And sure enough, he put $100 in my hand, and the love for plumbing began right then and there.
Hey, man, and that actually showed courage and inner wealth of self-worth right there because it's like, you know what? I'm going to take a shot anyway, $100. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it to you. It's like the world will give what you ask of it. It may not be in the way you want it, but it'll give it to you.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. And that carriage has been with me ever since. I mean, it was locked away for a long time, and I think I shied away from confrontation and stuff like that. But if you live, you're gonna have to stand up, and you're gonna have to fight for what you want. So that glimpse of carriage, then, believe me, it took me a long way.
That's right. Longer than a prairie and a wiener dog, all the way to spoken word. So what led the transition from, you know what, I like these dirty jobs and I'm getting paid on the side and they can't unemploy me because I'm working for myself, to, like, you know what, let me do some spoken word. What led to that?
Out of all things, a breakup. So, I mean, I can laugh at it now, but during the breakup, I definitely couldn't laugh then. But it was such a bad breakup that I just woke up angry every day and miserable, and I just couldn't get the anger off of me. And I was just, regardless of what I would do, hang out with my buddies. Of course, I have a good time, but once I got home, the anger was still there. I drank, and while you're drinking, the anger isn't there. But once you're sober up, the anger is there. Everything I tried to do to get rid of the anger, it just wouldn't go anywhere. But one day, I just started to write how I felt on the paper. So the more I wrote, the better I felt. And I looked up maybe a year and a half later, and I had all of this paperwork because back then, we're not writing anything in our notes on our phone. We were using pen and paper. That laugh tells me you understand where I'm coming from.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I all this paperwork in front of me, and I decided to take that paperwork and try to figure out what to do with it. And so I made it into a book. Anytime you are transforming yourself into a writer, even if you don't know it, then, it opens up other avenues, spoken word, anything that deals with writing, screenplays, writing songs. And, I mean, it's an avenue that I love exploring. Writing really excites me.
And that's awesome indeed. And it's a good thing you discovered, like, writing as a healthy way to actually channel those emotions. Because this is like, man, like that breakup, especially like a first one or a bad one, man, it must be like, man, you be feeling rock bottom. Like literally, like DeWayne Johnson came out of nowhere, rock bottoms you, and then you try to get up and get kicked in the chest or something, and you're like, no, you ain't getting back up this, buddy. And it's like, all right.
That was me. Laying there looking up at him.
Then it's like, all right, I'm up now. Oh, no, you ain't. Then you get the people's elbow out of nowhere. Look, stop.
Oh, don't forget about this. Boom. That was me right there.
Yes, sir, indeed. And I'm guessing those pages eventually became entries into the book itself, ManTality?
Absolutely. And it's and when you don't go to school to be a writer, you have to, and it's something, and you want to, write a book, you have to teach yourself how to write. So lucky for me, I had the opportunity. I was in the in a couple writing groups, poetry groups, and inside those poetry groups, there are a bunch of writers. So I started asking people to help me with different aspects of writing. And, they blessed me. The people I asked were just as excited as I was to show me, certain aspects of writing to help develop me develop my what I would have, the jumbled the jumbled mess that I had on these pages. And the more I worked at it, the better I got. And you start realizing that once you start putting your story down, you want it to be clear. And the worst thing that you can ever do to you or even the characters of your book, whether it be family and friends, is to write a book and embarrass yourself or even embarrass them. And one thing I can absolutely say, is I absolutely didn't do that. I didn't embarrass us. The book flows well. A lot of men find the content, they say, hey, this is my story. They find the content relatable. So I'm really proud of the end product of ManTality.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about indeed, man. It's always good when folks read something and they resonate with it. And what really inspired the title ManTality? Because it's like there's the whole men and mentality, but you know what? It's like, nah, man, this is ManTality.
Mm-hmm. Of course, it's just a play on words, and I don't know if I just saw ManTality one day and just stole it and just put. I don't know what happened. I just know that when I said the title, it just everything. Because of course, you start coming up with different titles, try to figure out, what represents you, and nothing worked. But as soon as I saw ManTality one day, and I added that A, it's just perfect. It was perfect. It was just the perfect title for the book. Just dropped out of the sky. I'm telling you.
That's what I'm talking about, man. It's like, you know what? This is A1 right here, man. Literally. The ManTality.
Yep.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So any plans for a future book in addition to this one?
Well, I keep telling people I have 7 books inside of me. So definitely. I'm working on a series of books. It done in like the coffee table style. And what that's going to be is that's basically me. I mean, again, I'm a poet. So what I do is I take pictures of everyday women, and that individual picture, I'll write a poem to it. So every poem and every picture is different, so every poem will be different. And I think it'll be a source of inspiration. I think when women, pick this series of books up and they read them, they'll see women that look like them, and they'll see these beautiful words that compliment these women in these pictures. And I just think it'll be a cool source of inspiration.
There you go. Something for the sisters. There we go. That's what I'm talking about.
Because I'm focusing on the guys in ManTality. Even though women can learn a lot about us emotionally in ManTality, I still say I do have to do something for them as well.
Yeah, that's right indeed. That's right indeed. Yes, indeed. But yeah, you're definitely right about the whole emotions of the man, because it's like in today's society, it's getting a little bit more, I guess, okay in a way, for lack of a better word at the moment, for guys to talk about their feelings and their emotions, because for years and years on end, it's like we've been taught, like, hey, don't cry for nothing, like, unless it's like at a funeral or something and it's your loved one they pass, like, don't cry for nothing, bottle it all up, keep your nose a grindstone, show no emotions. But like after a while, if you leave all that stuff inside of you like that, it'll just explode on the most random occasion when you least expect it.
Absolutely. And it's terrible that we've been raised like that. We've been raised to tell young girls, hey, listen, you're an emotional being, express yourself. And then tell our young boys that it's not cool to express yourself. Men, women express themselves, whereas men bottle that stuff up. That's the worst thing you can ever tell a young man. I mean, how are we going to be able to eloquently relate who we are as individuals to women? How am I going to tell a woman, hey, I hurt in this particular moment? Hey, what you're doing to me right now, it doesn't feel comfortable. I don't feel safe right now? How can we do that if we never teach our young men that it's okay to understand what you're feeling and to say what you're feeling? I think it's the craziest outlook. I mean, the craziest. I mean, we've been doing this for years. We have to tell our young men, listen, you're not weird. If you feel a certain way, you're not comfortable with feeling that way, you're not weird. It's okay to tell somebody that how you feel.
Yes, sir, indeed. Yes, sir, indeed. And it's like, yeah, man, if you need therapy, it's like just get the therapy, man. Especially in the chocolate community, it's like, man, heck, even in Charlemagne's newest book, Shook Ones, it's like a lot of it's just him talking about just him fighting his own inner demons and his anxiety issues, and with just going to a therapist, and even having his therapist in a way co-write the book with them in a way, and just helping them overcome that. And the fact that, like, even I forgot what part exactly was in the book, he mentioned how one of his other celebrity friends having a conversation, and she noticed, like, hey, you haven't been going to your therapist lately, have you? And it's like, oh, yeah, you're right. And it's like you can just tell the difference if someone doesn't have that safe place to actually vent, or at least to channel their inner struggles out in some way or another.
Yeah, we're terrified of saying, hey, I had to go talk to a counselor. I had to talk to somebody. We're terrible to go into that office and sit down in front of a therapist and say, hey, I need some help right now. But it's the best thing that you can ever do, and I'll admit it. I after relationships, because I'm just like my mom. Me and my mom, we love deep and we love hard. So after relationships are over, I'll speak for myself. I'm a mess. I need to figure out why that relationship ended. Was it my fault? Was it her fault? And so I do that, and I sit down and I talk to somebody who's impartial, somebody who's willing to give me some great insight, and I try my best to be completely honest, because the worst thing you can do when you go and talk to a therapist or a counselor is to lie to them. And I try to be open and honest with them, because I need to hear what happened. What can I do to make myself better if it was my fault? And I think the most, I guess this was my Oprah moment one time. I was talking to a counselor, and I said to her, hey, listen, I'm a good man. I treated this woman well. I did this, I did that, I did everything. And she still wasn't satisfied. She still wasn't happy. So everything that we built up, I've lost it. And she said, oh, that's life. I said, what? I said, what? She said, that's life. Stuff happens. And to be honest with you, something as simple as that resonated in me. And it helped me get to a level in which I'm able to say, yeah, I'm a good man. Yeah, I did do all of this stuff. But at some point in that relationship, it just didn't work out. So had I been afraid of that counselor, I would have never had gotten that dose of reality. And it wasn't negative reality. It wasn't saying you're a bad guy because you did this or you did that, or she was a bad woman because she did this or she did that. It said stuff don't always work out. As simple as that.
Hey, you're right, man. It's hey, it's like life is a mess, but like it can be less messy.
Indeed.
Yes, indeed. Heck, even funny enough, I got a friend, and that's like the name of her business, Your Life Less Messy. And she's a home organizer and organizes homes and makes it less messy. And in a way, it's because it's like clutter on the outside represents the inside clutter, and it's like you got to at least find a way to get rid of that psychic baggage and just realize that, hey, man, it's like life is rough, but it doesn't have to be as rough as I make it out to be, no matter like who's been in my life or who may have neglected me or things like that. It's like, you know what? Hey, I can still get up. I'm still blessed, still highly favored. Like, you know what? We're gonna have the real ManTality here.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, but it was a blessing to be able to get, because it was actually my therapy. Writing ManTality was my therapy. It was a blessing to have those emotions come out. It was a blessing to have those people come into my life and say, yeah, I'm willing to help you. It was a blessing that I was able to get it out there and one day look up and feel good about who I was and who I am and who I'm going to be in the future. The best thing I've ever done, one of the best things that I've ever done was took a chance and wrote ManTality. And I think a lot of times I always say, if somebody say, you think I can write a book, I always tell them yes. I think we all have stories. I think we all need to kind of look inwardly and figure out what it is that makes us tick. And if we're brave enough, then we can write that book. And believe me, if that book touches one person, they say it they say it all the time. If you are able to go out here into this world and reach one person, then you've done your job. So if ManTality reaches one person, and that person, smiles when they are able to reflect on their life because they read ManTality, then I'm proud. I'm already proud that I wrote it, and I'm glad to have been, an assistance to them.
Yes, sir, indeed. So is there going to be an audio version of it coming out?
I looked into it, but I definitely haven't, put that much brain power behind it. I do want to do it, but the guy who I know who does that, he's telling me to do it myself, and I really don't want to do it myself, but I think I'm going to have to, because you have to make it available to everybody. Whether it's in a printable version, and again, ManTality is available on Amazon. And ManTality is spelled ManTality. So, it has to be available in the printed version, and it also has to be available in an ebook, which it is. So why won't I just? And so I just have to put the extra time in to, make it available as a audiobook.
Yeah, man. It's like 118 pages on Kindle, so you should be all right.
Yeah.
Set aside a good 2 hours. You should be done.
Knock it out. Get on out of there.
Yep. Yes, indeed, man. Maybe print some CDs or do what some of the stand-up comedians are doing. Put it on a flash drive or something. So after you're done doing a piece on the stage. Actually, speaking of stages, so any advice for those who may be looking to get into spoken word as a art form, as a way of expressing themselves verbally and vocally?
Absolutely, because it was a struggle for me, because I think I really started to do the poetry because I said I'm going to have to, maybe one day I'll be in front of a crowd of people, and public speaking isn't my thing. So if I could take some of these poems, go to these open mics and get comfortable speaking in front of a crowd, then maybe I can get my anxiety of public speaking, get that out of me. So as a poet, what I will say is there's a lot of facets to honing your skills, because it is a skill. You have to understand who you are as a poet. Of course, you have to know your cadence, because all poets don't have the same cadence. I know when you watch Love Jones and stuff like that, everybody seems like they have the same cadence. But my cadence isn't like the next person's cadence. So you have to understand what your individual cadence is. You have to understand your audience. And this is the thing I'm struggling with right now, is just because I have this revolutionary poem for black people, and I know that, it'll resonate with my people. When I go into a crowd, a mixed crowd, where they have everybody there. Is that a cool poem to say? So you have to be versatile. I know one time I asked in a poetry group, I was like, because I like to do love poems and stuff like that. So, but at one time, that's all I was writing was love poems. So I was like, can I write a revolutionary or any other type of poetry? And they was like, you're a poet. You can write whatever it is that you want to write. So just make sure that you're versatile. Make sure you have something to say and be comfortable in what it is that you're saying. Because if you're not comfortable with what you're saying, how is the crowd going to accept what it is that you're saying? So yeah, write. If you're a poet, and if you can be afraid, but try to find that courage to put that information out there, because somebody wants to hear what you have to say. I promise you, somebody wants to hear what you have to say.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Yes, indeed. Definitely a gold nugget right there. Find your cadence. That's right, because everybody doesn't have the same cadence. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yeah, man.
It's a guy. He a poet, and I was really uncomfortable with his poetry style. I mean, he would get up on that stage and he would talk about cutting himself and depression and stuff like that. So I'm sitting there in my seat and I'm squirming, like, wow, how can he reveal that stuff about himself? And then after he finished, the ovation he got from the people in the crowd who may have gone through the same thing, or even if they didn't go through that, just the people who were like, how you were brave to get up on that stage and reveal that stuff to us. So just understand who you are, and just if you have a message for people, believe me, somebody needs to hear it.
Man, you're right about that, man. It's like you think it's like something like, man, should I really tell people this? Should I tell people this? It's like, screw it, man. Hail Mary. I'm going to tell. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. And you say it, it's like, and you get like the dude who was cutting himself. He got a big standing ovation. It's like, man, like you never know who was actually going to resonate with you, man. So definitely right about that, man. That's
Absolutely.
Right, indeed. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, speaking of spoken word, I'm pretty sure there's other folks that may have inspired you to actually write your books. So, any books of your own that you may enjoy reading, or at least any other authors or artists that may have inspired you to publish your work?
Let me tell you what's weird. I've always had an issue with reading. Let me tell you what genre of books get me excited. Commerce books. So when I start reading about export and import, I really get into these books, and I really get into understanding how trade between the U.S. and other countries and stuff like that. I did have a buddy. He gave me a book. Oh wow! Now I forget the author's name all of a sudden. I'm not. I definitely read. I read more so newspapers than other authors, and I think that, and I do that for a major reason, because when you start reading other publications, other people's work, when I do, I know that stuff stays with me. And the worst thing, and the one thing that I never want to do is I never want to plagiarize anybody else's work. So I kind of steer clear of that stuff. And I'm comfortable with reading commerce books. I'm comfortable with reading newspaper and magazines and stuff like that. But I kind of steer clear of that stuff. But I will say this, though. Toni Morrison, her passing was a heck of was a black eye. Not a black eye, but that hurt this community, because she was definitely a great author. But yeah, that's my that's what I do. I definitely try to steer clear of authors or other books, other publications.
Hey, man, that's an interesting perspective, man, and I'm all for it. I mean, like, you're actually the first to really admit something like that. It's like, man, books, man, forget that. I read newspapers, man. I do look at the commerce stuff. It's like, man, I'm a businessman, dude. Like, I gotta, man, these books ain't gonna buy this house just yet. Like, I gotta do something else.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Try to figure out a way to get more. That's absolutely the reason behind the commerce books. Believe me.
Yeah, man, and that's definitely wise indeed, and you're definitely right. It's like that stuff sticks with you in your subconscious mind. It just takes everything, and then it just seeps out at random times, and like sometimes folks will even notice it at times. Like, man, you're totally different than before. It's like when you immerse yourself in certain things, it's like certain things will come out from whatever you immerse yourself in, man. So that's really awesome, dude, and it's really an interesting perspective. And it's good to know that folks still read newspapers. I know that we're printing them out for some reason.
Yeah. They're trying to get rid of the newspaper, but believe me, they are they're a good source for that information that we need, whether it be community-based information or, world-based. And they're trying to get rid of the sports page, but yeah. Yeah. I still need my sports page.
Man, that and the comics, like, those are like ultra popular. At least I remember them being extra popular. Lord
yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, the comics are definitely. The funny. That's just how my brain works. I've even like when I write my poetry, I write stuff that I usually start with a title, a catchy title. Once I get the title, then I can kind of expand and write stuff like that. So once I get the stuff, written in my notes on my phone, then I'll read it back, and then I'll get trying to get comfortable with it. And sometimes I get stopped in my tracks. I'm like, and if my brain says something's not right, I've learned to actually listen to that. Sometimes we want to speed by our brain when it says something's not right. But I've learned to kind of listen, like I said, to listen to it. So I'll listen and I say, I've heard that before. So I'll read it again and read it again. I say, yeah, I definitely heard that before. So then I have to change that. But once I noticed that about myself, once I noticed that I heard a poem and a catchy line or something like that, and it'll stay with me. That made me say, yeah. Or once I've read a certain passage in a book or something like that, and here I am recanting it, that kind of scares me, and it makes me run away from that stuff. So I just want to be true to myself. This is something that writing is something that I enjoy doing. Poetry is something that I definitely enjoy doing, and I want my words to be my words. So, I could read Toni Morrison, but if I start plagiarizing Toni Morrison, we're going to have an issue.
Yeah, man. Don't want the family coming after you. Don't want a spirit coming at you like, hey, boy, get over here. And
exactly.
Out of nowhere. From the bluer side to the blacker side.
There you go.
Yeah, the
no any more high water. No high water. I'm good.
Yes, indeed. And then you be in the ER, you'd be like, God help this child. Let me stop.
Right, exactly.
Oh, man. Well, enough of my nonsense. Well, a question I'd like to ask every guest, and that is if you were to wake up tomorrow and you were 25 again in the current year with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
I'd say go for it. Any and everything that you're interested in, just go. You know, again, I was bashful. I was shy. So I wouldn't do a whole bunch. I would sit back and watch, but I wouldn't really enjoy. I dated a woman who, when her son graduated high school, she let him go to India for a year.
Oh, wow.
And this young man went to India. He learned how to speak. I forgot the native. I forgot what they speak. He learned how to speak, and now he's coming back. He came back to before going to Morehouse. He came back to the country, you know, able to speak another language, had these experiences that he'll keep with him forever. And I've never had that, whether it was playing basketball for my high school or you know, I just didn't do that because I just didn't have that adventurous spirit. So I would say, DeWayne, anything that you can dream, anything you can imagine, try it. You know, you're going to fail, you're going to fall on your face, but at least you have that experience of putting yourself out there. And I think a lot of time, you know, I think you said chocolate people. We don't like to put ourselves out there. We like to stay at home or stay in our city. Not even go to other cities and states. And if we're not willing to do that, we definitely won't get a passport and to go to a different country. But the very first trip I ever went to, out of the country, and I was there in my 30s. I got my first passport at 30, maybe 32 or something like that. I went to Guyana, and I got a chance to mix and mingle with these people from this third world country who had little to nothing, but they shared everything with me. And I would have never gotten that beautiful experience if I just didn't put myself out there. So yeah, DeWayne, get up, go, do something.
Yeah, man, amen to that indeed. Yeah, man, definitely got to get that passport indeed, and then actually use it indeed. That's the other thing too. I guess like it's like when you put yourself out there, it's like that fear of, man, are they gonna lynch me? Gonna cut my head off? Like I mean, the possibility that's still there, but it's not really there. It's
right.
It's like the more you travel, and then it's like you get to see other places, and then you get to mix and mingle with folks. It's like, you know what? There's not much of a huge difference at all. Just mostly the language, if that's depending on the place where it is. It's like, yeah, man, just regular humans.
I hated that I didn't get up and just go and just do. And you know, my mom worked 2 jobs, so she couldn't really push me. You know, my dad wasn't necessarily in the picture. He was around, but wasn't necessarily around. So I didn't have anybody to push me. I was with somebody with like that little bird that want to fly, would just push me out of that nest and say, well, either you're going to fly or you're going to go splat. One or the other. It's on you.
That's right. We all need those pushes, baby. That's right. Well, not the drug pushers, but we need all the pushers.
Right. No, definitely not.
Oh man, I'll be stupid sometimes.
Brother fresh air. That's what you mean.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, all right. For those who want to keep in contact with you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Well, I'm on Facebook at DeWayne Foote, and that's spelled DeWayne Foote. And I'm also on Instagram under my under Lone Wolf, LONEWOLF _IP. Again, that's Lone Wolf, LONEWOLF _IP.
folks, the wonderful DeWayne Foote, baby. That's right. Head over to that Amazon.com. Pick up a copy of the book and be inspired, baby. Be inspired. Get that ManTality. If you a lady, get it for the man in your life, the men in your life. Heck, even read yourself and get that womantality. That's right. Just don't bring no woe to people. That's all I say. Just don't.
There you go. Exactly.
Oh, man. Well, all right. Any parting words for the folks still listening, DeWayne?
Stay encouraged. Write that book. Don't go away from here without telling your story.
Hey there, you superstar. Thanks a bunch for making it this far in the podcast. Hope you really enjoyed it. Heck, if you made it this far, that means you really enjoyed it. Be sure to shoot the guest an email or head over to the social media pages and leave them a nice response that you heard them on the Going North podcast, so that way they can continue to be inspired to do great things. And be sure to share this podcast with others that you think would enjoy it as well, because we want to inspire as many people as possible to live their dreams, embrace them, and to do something positive.